Thank you, Tonmoy. Thank you. My other students are also there. It's a very good opportunity to speak uh, to a large gathering of people. Most of them are faculty members. So it's definitely a special occasion for me. I will talk about the nature of public action, government action to be more specific, against the COVID-19 crisis. Of course, the context will be India. Uh, I will try to understand how well the government has been able to tackle the problem, and what are the perhaps lacunae where more work is needed. Now, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, COVID-19 crisis, one can think of two distinct phases. One is, I'll just call it phase one, basically the lockdown phase. When the lockdown is in place everywhere, people are sitting at home without work, without income, and at the same time, migrants are struggling to get back to their home. This is the situation. So this is lockdown phase one, and then I'll also talk about phase two, when lockdown is being gradually lifted and the economy is resuming its normal activities, albeit gradually, not at once, but gradually we are trying hard to get back to normalcy. Now, as for phase one, the key word I think is survival. When there is complete lockdown, people are without jobs, migrants are struggling to get back. The key problem is one of survival. And as for phase two, the key word is revival. So I will make a distinction between survival and revival. So the first question is, now phase one is almost over. How well has the government, for my purpose, I won't distinguish between central government and state government. I will consider government as a whole. And the question is, how well the government, or the governments perhaps, been able to manage the problem of survival. Now here I will say, my opinion is that one can think of two distinct class of people again, the migrants and the non-migrants. The non-migrants are those who have lost their jobs, but they're staying at home without income perhaps. For them, I think the problem of survival has been managed reasonably well. Why do I say that? Well, simply because there are very few reporting of actual starvation. Very few starvation. People somehow have got enough to eat. We have not heard about, deaths due to starvation or even widespread hunger. There are several reasons for this. The primary reason, in my opinion, is the more or less smooth functioning of the public distribution system. If you compare the present crisis with the Bengal famine, for example, which took place in the 1940s, no rationing system was there. And now we have a fairly widespread rationing system. People are getting 5 kilograms of food grains, 1 kilogram of dal, and that is sufficient. People are not starving, in my opinion. However, for the other group of people, the migrants, there are several problems. The main problem is that we had very little knowledge about the migrants. Even the census, the 2011 census, the data on migrants have been processed very recently. I just got to take a look at the main tables just yesterday. And even that data is terribly incomplete, meaning that we have very little idea about who is working where, who is migrating where, what is the total quantum of migrants, and so on and so forth. So, in a sense, we were completely unaware of this migration problem, of the problems the migrants might face. And there, I think there has been a serious government failure. So just to repeat, as far as non-migrants are concerned, I think the governments, the central government and the state governments taken together have been reasonably successful to support a starving population. But for migrants, there have been serious failures. So that is my take on phase 1. That is, which is where I said the keyword is survival. Let us now talk about phase 2, which is revival. Now, lockdown is being lifted gradually, and of course, we have to, we have to undertake the very hard task of putting the economy in its normal mode, and that is no easy task. So when we talk about revival, 3 things come to my mind. First is revival of the supply side. The supply chain needs to be revived. Production needs to start. Distribution has to be in place. This is one. The other is demand side revival. I will talk about that, exactly what I mean by demand side revival. But in a nutshell, since people are jobless, since people are without work, since people do not have income, there could be a demand efficiency problem. Even if supply is there in the market, people might not have the purchasing power to buy them. So that is the demand side management. And finally, the third thing that is important is financing. This whole revival program needs crores and crores of rupees. And how does one finance that requirement? It's not an easy job. So we will talk about supply side, demand side, and financing. Let's talk about supply side first. Here, supply is being disrupted because of 2 reasons. One is there is a lack of capital. You see, for any firm of any size, small firm, medium firm, large firm, the income flow has been stopped. But for all these firms, usually these firms are borrowers from the market. They have to pay back their loans. But without any inflow of income, it is hard to pay back your loans. So there is a problem of revival of capital flows. And the government has come up with some measures. They have provided moratorium first for 3 months, and then it has been extended to 6 months. And more credit flows have been announced by the finance minister to the MSME sector. MSME has been chosen because they are the ones who are providing employment on a large scale. So to take care of smooth capital flows, the government has announced moratorium and has also announced smooth credit flows to the MSME. So hopefully that should take care of the capital problem. But there is another problem, which is, in my opinion, which is more important because of the COVID disease itself. It is a labor problem. It is the revival of the labor flows that is important. So the problem is very simple. People cannot go to their place of work because of the COVID fear, because public transports are not available. So in my opinion, to make labor flows smooth, the governments, the central government as well as the state governments, I'm not making any distinction between them again, governments should consider giving transport subsidies, because it's of immense importance that people go to their place of work. With 50% or even 60% people going to the place of work, or people going to their place of work, let's say 3 times a week, that cannot bring back normalcy. So I think the policymakers should seriously think about reviving the public transport system. Now we talk about demand. You see, there are demand problems. Why? Because consumption, first of all, consumption demand is likely to be affected because of an increase in the propensity to save. There is widespread uncertainty everywhere. So people do not know when they will lose their jobs, and therefore they have a higher propensity to save. And that sort of puts a constraint on the amount of consumption that people will undertake. The other component of demand is investment. Again, investment demand is likely to be low because of this uncertain environment. And if demand does not pick up, the credit policy that the government has announced is going to be useless. Because as a firm, if I know that I cannot sell my goods, I'm not going to take any loan. I'm not going to pay back my loans either. So it is important to manage the demand problem. Now, how does one boost up demand? Economists, many economists, and very famous ones, have talked about direct money transfers. Now here, I will differ a little bit. Money transfer for survival, I can understand. But that has been taken care of by distribution of food. So no more money transfer is required for survival. But if you are thinking of money transfer, income transfer for reviving demand, then there is a problem, I think. First of all, there are precautionary savings. If I get a one-time transfer, I might as well save a large part of that money for future, emergencies. And also, in economics, we are all aware of the permanent income hypothesis of Milton Friedman. That is, if you have a one-time increase in income, then you tend to smooth out. Your current consumption increases by a very small amount. So I think just one-time transfer of income cannot revive demand. What you have to do is a better, much better thing to do is to revive public works. Just government works. Government had announced to enhance the infrastructure, Indian infrastructure, by a large amount. I think the government should keep its promise. If public works are undertaken, then people can be employed in a at least in a semi-permanent position. And that will increase their permanent income, or at least semi-permanent income, which can boost demand, consumption demand. One last thing I will say about financing. The government is planning to sell public assets to finance this crisis, to finance the measures that it has announced. I think it is not a good time to sell public assets because, given widespread recession all over the world, you are likely to get a very low price for the assets. This is not a good time to sell. So the government should resort to other means. For example, there is nothing wrong, at least in my opinion, there is nothing wrong in increasing the national debt. The central government is encouraging everyone to take more loans, including state governments. So why doesn't the central government take more loans itself? And the other is increasing taxes for the super rich. People have talked about that, but so far we have not seen it happening. So that is roughly what I wanted to say. Government has been successful in certain respects. It has not been successful in other respects, and the crisis goes on. Thank you very much.